Hey guys, Josh here. So a few days ago, I made a review of the very first Harvest Moon game that came out for the SNES, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing some useful tips and tricks that really helped me with my recent playthrough, so I'm hoping that if you do decide to play this game at some point, these tips will help you as well. My first tip is pretty simple, but it is an important one. In this game, grass, which is used to feed both your chickens and your cows, grows from spring all the way until the end of fall, and it can be harvested with the sickle every 9 days. However, it can only be planted in spring and summer, and you can't plant it in fall. Also, it's a lot cheaper than the food you buy at the animal store, plus you actually need to have grass on your farm, otherwise the animal store won't let you buy animals. How much grass should you plant depends on how many animals you want, but one bag of grass is 9 seeds and it takes 9 days to grow. So make sure you plant at least one bag per animal as a strict minimum. However, you will need more in order to keep feeding your animals through the winter, and you might also end up throwing some of it on the ground by accident, so just plant as much as you can, because animals are the only way to make money in the winter, so if you don't want that season to go to waste, just make sure to keep some money aside to plant enough grass before the first day of fall. Also, keep in mind that grass will regrow the year after, so you don't need to replant it every year, which is why it's important to plant in the first year as much as you can. Also, if you ever run short on food, keep in mind that if you don't feed your chickens, they will simply stop laying eggs for 3 days, but they will never get sick. Cows, on the other hand, can get sick, and medicine costs 1000 G, and since milk is more valuable than eggs, I would definitely recommend prioritizing them over the chickens. In the worst case scenario, you can also bring your animals outside if you're completely out of food and they're gonna find their own food outside. But this brings me to the next tip, which is actually you shouldn't bring your animals outside in this game unless you're stuck in a really bad scenario. And we're often tempted to bring animals outside because it feels just like the natural thing to do in farming games. However, in this one, the cons definitely outweigh the benefits. So yes, if you bring them outside, you won't need to feed them. However, chickens don't lay eggs outside, so right there's no point in bringing them out. But also they can get eaten by wild dogs if left outside overnight. Cows are a bit better as they will still give you milk, but you will see that time passes pretty quickly in this game. So milking your cows outside will take a huge chunk of your day, as opposed to leaving them inside because time stops inside buildings. And also they can get sick if it rains or snow, so overall it's just not worth it, and I would strongly suggest just leaving all of your animals in the comfort of their barn or chicken coop. My next tip is also animal related, and it might sound a bit cruel, but you don't need to feed the babies. So chicks can't lay eggs anyway, and they can't get sick, so not feeding them won't change anything. And calves also can't get sick and won't give you milk until they're an adult. So nothing bad will happen for not feeding the baby animals. And as for me, I still always feed them because I feel guilty if I don't, but you really don't have to. And before you get animals and tons of crops to harvest on your farm, one good way to make money early in game is by fishing, and it took me quite some time to figure this out, as in recent games you're always given your own fishing rod, but things worked a bit differently in this first entry. So if you want to go fishing, you have to go out on a sunny day, go to the mountain and speak to the fisherman, then you'll go to the little wooden duck and you press Y, and then you press again when a fish bites, and then you're gonna get a fish. So that's how you fish in this game. It's very simple when you know it, but if you don't, it's not very obvious. And each fish sells for 300 G, which is pretty good and more valuable than just foraging the berries. And also, I recommend you keep some of that fish money for the first house expansion, which costs 5000 G and 250 lumber. Also, just so you know, the second house expansion is going to be the double of that, so it's going to be 10,000 G and 500 lumber. And if there's just one tip you have to remember from this whole video, it is this one. So you might have noticed if you've played this game that there's no clock, there's no way to see what time it is. Well, if you upgrade your house before the end of the first summer, you'll be able to see the time of day when you pause the game. However, if you upgrade your house after the end of the first summer, there's absolutely no way you'll ever be able to get a clock, and you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what time it is, and that's not very fun, especially considering the next tip. So this game introduced the famous shipping bin that we are pretty used to seeing in farming games now. However, in this game, a guy will come every day at 5 p.m. to collect what's inside. And if you put anything after 5 p.m., it will not get collected the next day, or actually ever. You just lost whatever you put in there after 5 p.m. Also keep in mind that there's no inventory system in this game, so you can't just store items in your backpack until the next day. So if you go fishing, make sure you come back before 5 and put your fish in the shipping bin as quickly as possible. Same thing with your animal products and your crops that are ready to harvest. Make sure you sell everything as early as possible. Also, once you get a horse, it can be used as a portable shipping bin, so you can throw stuff at him to sell them, which is a good time saver when shipping crops. But keep in mind that the same rule applies, and you need to put everything on your horse before 5. As you see, this game is a bit strict when it comes to timing for shipping your stuff. However, it doesn't care much for what's happening after 5. In fact, time stops at 6 p.m. and you can pretty much just keep going forever. Time will always remain at 6 p.m. and while you can't go fishing or harvest crops at night since you won't be able to ship them, this means that you can still gather some lumber, you can water your crops, you can clean up your field, you can plant new seeds, or all the other things you didn't have time to complete during the day. However, keep in mind that most of the marriage candidates will go to bed at 6 p.m. So you're gonna have to make some time during the day if you want to meet them, and the only exception to this is Eve. Eve works at the bar, so if you're into her, you can easily meet her at night, which makes marrying her a bit easier than the other ones. However, don't let that fool you, because being married to her is a different thing, as her affection for you will go down every day. And it's also gonna go down even more if you go to bed before her, whereas with the other girls, it will go down if you go to bed after them. But on top of that, for Eve, it will go down every day no matter what. So you'll have to make sure you give her an egg or some other gift every day if you want to maintain a good relationship and if you want to get the 9 hearts that are required to get the 2 children. Speaking of relationships, this next tip is kind of exploiting a bug in the game. So I'll leave it up to you if you want to do it or not, but marrying any of the girls can be extremely easy in this game because on some days, there is a random chance that a girl will ask you a question, and if you answer their question correctly, your affection will go up. Then you can just go inside or outside a building, depending on if you're inside or outside. You just go in and out, then you come back, and then you might have to talk with her a few times, but she will eventually ask you the same question. So you just answer, go back in and out, and you just keep doing this over and over again. And you can take a look at her diary if you want to see how your relationship is doing. And you're gonna be able to get a lot of hearts very quickly. And once you're at 5 hearts, the wandering merchant will sell the blue feather, give it to the girl you want to marry on a Saturday. If you want to marry Nina, you'll have to give it to her on a Sunday. And then you'll get married. So if you use this technique, it's gonna be really fast and easy. And while we're talking about exploits, let me tell you how to expedite a cow pregnancy. So in this game, cows will get pregnant from a miracle potion and will typically give birth after 30 days. However, if you give them animal medicine right after the miracle potion, then a true miracle will happen and she will actually give birth after only 3 days. So you're gonna be saving 27 days. And considering that this game ends after 2.5 years, it's really good to be able to get lots of cows very quickly. And of course, you'll have to pay for the animal medicine, which is a little bit more expensive, but you're gonna be making your money back pretty fast. So that's another pretty useful tip. So the next tip is not something really big or special, but it's something that has been confusing me for so long when I was playing this game. So like in many other Harvest Moon games, this one has power berries. There are 10 of them in the game, and they will increase your stamina, allowing you to do more things in a day. So you're gonna be finding them by doing different things and exploring the world. And in this video, I won't be covering how to find them, especially as I think they're fun to discover on your own. And if you're stuck, you can easily find guides on the internet. The only thing I want to tell you is something that confused me for quite some time, but there is a garden behind your barn, and you will notice as you play, there will be more and more pink flowers growing in there. And the flowers actually represent the amount of power berries you have found. So if you want to know how many power berries you have left to find, you can just count the flowers. So it might be very obvious for some people, but for me it really was not, so I was really shocked when I learned this. And lastly, this tip is kind of similar. Once again, there are many things that this game doesn't tell you, and one of them is about your dog. So he might seem a bit useless at first, especially as there's no dog race or contest in this game. But actually this game has over 20 different endings, and the ending you will get will depend on how well you did in your playthrough and your stats after the 3rd summer. But if you want the happy ending, you will need to have picked up your dog 100 times during your playthrough. So make sure to give your dog some love if you want to get the best ending. Alright guys, so those are my must-know tips for Harvest Moon on the SNES. I hope they help you, and if you've played this game already and have some tips to share, feel free to do so in the comments and help each other out. And also leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and I'll see you all in the next video.